Hi, my name is Jody Kennedy, and I'm presenting on media throughout the century. I had a little bit of an interview process with my dad the other day when I called him on the phone and I asked him to describe media now versus media when he was a kid. And he had a lot to say about a lot of pros and cons of everything and media then versus now. So, yeah, I just thought that I would walk you guys through that. One thing that my dad talked about was media then versus now. So media when he was a kid, he had people that he really trusted on the air, and he had newspaper sources that he felt were very unbiased and very just spreading the facts. And he felt like when he turned on the TV to watch the news, it was him watching current events happening and being reported to him. It was very unbiased and straightforward. But he feels like now in the 21st century, a lot of news sources are really opinion-based channels, and they have a lot of biases that come with them. So that's one thing to look out for, is always watching the biases that you are listening to coming from every news source that you're watching, because they're always going to come with some kind of hindrance nowadays. Now, news bias comes in a lot of shapes and sizes, but obviously these photos are here to represent the two most obvious news biases that people of opposite parties often complain about. People usually leaning far towards the right tend to distrust CNN, and people leaning far towards the left tend to distrust Fox News, because they tend to think that the reporters let their biases show through, and it's no longer reporting on fact and current events. It's a lot of putting in their own opinions, putting in a lot of their own experience. And people tend to think that when they do this, it makes them trust the sources a little bit less, because it's no longer unbiased and straightforward fact. It then comes with a lot of personal opinions and experiences. Now, because there's so much biases in the news compared to how it was back when my dad was explaining that he was a kid, the Americans' trust in mass media has decreased a pretty fair amount. Just from 1997 to 2015, it's decreased significantly, which you can see in this chart. And imagine from when my dad was a kid, my dad was born in 1962, there was a great deal more of trust because there was a lot of the country rallying around one common idea because they had very few news sources. It was basically the newspaper, radio, and TV. And now that we have so many different news sources, it's hard to trust just one. It's hard to have a full sense of trust because people can spread a lot of information at a really extreme rate. Now, basically, just to wrap up what we talked about, going over the pros and cons of media today, a lot of pros, there's a lot of different media sources like social media and also mainstream media, where you can have people's voices be heard on platforms that they would usually not be heard on. An example of this is the Me Too movement, or people of color being able to speak out about their experience. But there are a lot of cons as well because of such a fast rate that information gets spread. There's a lot of fake news because you don't really know who to believe on which accounts. And there's a lot of, like the news sources now are very divisive, and it seems like a personal attack now when you talk about heavy things in the news, and people can't seem to see eye to eye because there's so much information and so many people sharing their opinion so loudly on such a common platform.